Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Tech Talks Daily podcast. I'm your host, Neil C. Hughes, and today we're set to dive into the fascinating intersection of artificial intelligence and the freelance marketplace. And our guest today is the driving force behind Paro, which is a trailblazing startup that's changing the way companies access on-demand financial expertise. He's known for his forward-thinking approach. He's successfully utilised AI to level the playing field in an industry where larger established providers have traditionally held sway, until now. So I'm thrilled to introduce to you today Michael Burdick, founder and chief strategy officer at Paro, who's going to share his unique insights on AI's transformative role in the financial talent market and how Paro is leveraging AI to disrupt this market too. But enough from me. Buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to the US, where Michael is waiting to share his story. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. My name is Michael Burdick, and I'm the founder of Paro. Paro is a finance accounting freelance marketplace for white-collar, high-skilled professionals within the CPA and finance world.
Fantastic. And one of the things I always like to do with my guests is take them back in time and find out more about their origin story. So can you tell me about the journey of Paro and what the inspiration was behind creating a startup ultimately aimed at disrupting the way companies access on-demand financial talent? Because I feel there's got to be a story there, right?
Let me go down memory lane a little bit and give you the context and backstory. So my professional journey started at Deloitte, which is also where the idea and impetus for Paro originated. Going into Deloitte, I was sort of bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, wanted to take on crazy, cool projects and work on things that I was interested in and passionate about. And the reality of a large firm model is it's pretty rigid. It's pretty tight, right? You have to stick to the Deloitte way of doing things, which I totally respect.
Yeah.
But after a couple of years of that, not being able to, have a ton of choice and flexibility, I had an interesting, sort of straw that broke the camel's back moment. I was on a project in Amish country, Pennsylvania, and it was just crazy moment where I saw a horse-drawn buggy pull through a McDonald's drive-thru, and it just was maybe the straw that broke the camel's back, right? It's this is the one I signed up for, and so set out to create what I wanted going into Deloitte.
Wow, what a great story. Love that. And of course, right here, if we fast forward to 2023, AI is dominating conversations across every industry this year. So I'm curious, how is Paro utilizing AI to transform the way these freelance marketplaces operate? And can you share some specific examples of how AI is enhancing your operations too?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been using AI for several years. Obviously, it's picked up in terms of commonality and pervasiveness in today's media more recently, but we've been using it for several years. And one of the biggest use cases is just related to connecting the right supply with the right demand. Historical ways of doing that are old school and just sort of maybe sorting via a Google spreadsheet or whatever it may be. We use many data points, heuristics, lots of complex computation via AI to do complex matching, which ensures that there's a high quality outcome for companies that are looking for the best fit expert to solve their specific problem. So our matchmaking is 20 times more efficient, at least, than traditional recruitment. So that's just the first application that we had, but we're innovating all the time, adding additional AI and features for the experts to be more efficient as well as our clients. So that's just one application.
And I'm curious, in your view, why do you think freelance marketplaces have traditionally been overlooked in favor of larger and established managed service providers or MSPs?
Well, I think historically MSPs are, in the enterprise arena, and enterprises are typically slower to adopt new ways of doing something, right?
Yeah.
They're sort of later on the adoption curve, if you will. And so they're hesitant to adopt something new until it's more proven. And that is true of both AI and freelance marketplaces. I actually think AI is a little bit of an anomalous use case because everyone, every big tech company is adopting it as quickly as they can because they see that it's sort of an existential threat. Otherwise, they're typically later in the adoption curve. So why have enterprises stayed with MSPs? Because it's known,
yeah,
right? While it may be suboptimal or inefficient, hiring managers, internal processes, procurement, the entire establishment that exists knows how it works, and therefore, any sort of change takes time.
100% with you. And I'm curious, adoption's one problem, but how does AI right now help address some of the challenges, especially around things like risk, security, compliance, misclassification, lawsuits, etc.? There's so many big challenges in this space, but how do you think AI actually helps overcome these challenges?
I think there are a few areas that enterprises are concerned about. I mean, it ranges from data security to employment misclassification to, compliance around, if you provide an expert or an employee with a laptop, like, is that going to be secure, right? So there's a whole range of problems and situations that enterprises are thoughtful about. I think AI is in general a force multiplier, so it can be helpful. And those specific use cases, I think there needs to just be marketplaces need to adopt older school ways of doing things in order to get their foot in the door and create change from within. So I'm not sure if this is so much like, especially employment misclassification, for example.
Yeah.
They just don't want to take on the legal risk, right? So AI is not going to solve that right away. So adopting some of these probably slower, old school ways of doing things is the first step at disrupting and minimizing those sorts of perceived risks by enterprises.
And obviously, is someone right in the heart of this space? How do you think AI can help maybe level the playing field for freelance marketplaces, especially against some of those traditional incumbents that have built up substantial data and IP over the decades? Because it almost feels like a big opportunity for you guys.
I think that it's important to ask oneself, why do the incumbents have such a stranglehold on the industry? They have a massive moat for several reasons. I mean, part of that is brand perception, and the saying goes, you never get fired for hiring Deloitte or IBM or whatever the saying is, right?
Yeah.
But also they have experience across, take Deloitte, millions of former employees, and so they have tried and true ways of doing things. Sort of like they've had these, a million data points of what's worked and what's not worked. And in today's world with AI, you can accelerate your learning curves that you don't have to go through that entire cycle. You can do that in weeks or months or years, as opposed to, an entire century, right? And so I think AI is accelerating the pace of change, and it also enables, if you have a lot of proprietary data, it enables you to help chip away at that moat that may exist for the incumbents. We're going to take pricing, for example, right? How does Deloitte, set the rate card for a senior associate or for a specific skill set? Those are like very opaque things that exist in this industry where if you have AI and the right data, you can very quickly chip away at that moat.
And from your perspective here, how do you think the integration of AI in freelance marketplaces will also influence the evolution of the gig economy? Because things seem to be moving pretty quickly here as well. There's entire nations opening up their borders and trying to encourage digital nomads over, for example. Do you think this is just going to continue to evolve? And what role do you see AI playing in this?
Good question. And there's one word that I watched onto there that I want to first elaborate on.
Yeah.
And then I can come back and ask a question. So there's the freelance economy, and there's the gig economy, there's a human cloud. There are like a bazillion different names here.
Yeah.
And the thing that I am conscientious about is the word gig.
Yeah.
When I hear it, it conjures up imagery of sort of, minimum wage, menial tasks. Like, by the way, I'm not belittling anything that someone does, because I am a huge user of Uber and DoorDash, right? Obviously. And that is part of the gig economy. Whenever we're referring to this space, the freelance economy more, it's really related to high earners, call it like, 6-figure plus type earners, right? So it's a profoundly different problem set that you're dealing with to unlock these folks from the confines of traditional employment. What I mean by that is people increasingly want to have the choice and flexibility to work on their own terms, right? Similar to my story that I shared at Deloitte. And yet they are scared to do so because there's no safety net. There's no sort of guarantee that they can be successful in the freelance economy, because they have to go sell a ton of work. They're not going to know how much their earnings are in the future, like literally a terrifying value proposition. And so, I think it's important to understand the definition of gig versus freelance economy, or the demographic we're referring to here. And so with that in mind, I think AI is an unlock for these folks to enable them to feel more safe while they're working on their own terms, right? Because historically, people want to exercise that choice. Maybe you don't want to have to commute 2-3 hours every day into the office. Or you want to say what you work on or who you work with, right? These are things that people want, but they haven't had the optionality to do so. So AI via the freelance economy is, I think, an unlock for folks to express that choice and work on their own terms, right? Which may not be through traditional employment.
Love that. And if AI can enable freelance marketplaces to disrupt the industry, give more flexibility and peace of mind to some of those high earners that you mentioned, and people that have maybe been in corporate world for many, many years, but now want to do something different on their own. Can you provide some insights into what you think this disruption might look like in the months and years ahead?
Well, I think it's a complex dynamic of market forces, and any, labor market where you have employers and employees or workers. I think with COVID specifically, it was the first time where en masse business professionals, 6-figure plus type earners, were forced to figure out how to work remotely. Previously, it was out of the question. And so it opened everyone's eyes to this is possible, and this is a choice I can have. And you can put the genie back in the bottle there. And so I think more and more people want to express that choice. And with labor markets, there's obviously the market forces on demand versus supply. And so if an increasing amount of workers want to have that choice, flexibility, work remotely, not work for a traditional employer, then the demand side has to adapt and figure out how to work with those experts, meet them where they're at, right? Because wherever the talent pool and the high quality folks exist, that's where the clients and the demand side is going to increasingly migrate, right? Because that's just like market forces. So I think AI is an unlock for those market dynamics, and the what's going to adapt and change is clients working with experts and workers who are remote or freelancing or working the way that they want to.
And before you came on the podcast today, I was reading how at Paro you've been leveraging AI in financial modeling, expert talent selection. I'm curious, you probably can't share too much information around this, but are there any other areas that you're exploring where AI could be utilized or planned to be implemented in the future in everything that you do?
Well, we talked about matching a little bit. Obviously, that's a very natural use case. One thing that we didn't highlight is, I mentioned for these folks in this demographic, their problems are fundamentally different. Their requirements are fundamentally different. Their hierarchy of needs are different. And for them to feel safe working on their own terms, there are a number of problems that need to be solved. For example, pricing. How much my skills worth? We have an enormous proprietary database of information that can help an expert understand what's the market clearing price for their skills relative to demand. That's an example. Another example is helping them optimize and grow their business. What performance metrics do I have? How am I doing relative to my peers? Where can I improve and earn more money? Right? That's another area. And then also AI helps with reducing non-billable friction, if you will, because obviously in order to earn as much as you possibly can freelancing or working on your own terms, part of that is minimizing the amount of time you spend doing non-billable things. And so AI helps today with all of those, and we're continuing later on new value propositions and use cases. In the future, I think there are opportunities to help experts understand what their quote unquote career growth could look like. Meaning, if you want to take on the journey to go from an accountant to a controller to a CFO, every project is a learning opportunity. So think of it as continuous growth as opposed to a stepwise function in traditional employment. You get a promotion, you take on more responsibilities, sort of like a stepwise function. So we can, with AI, help folks understand what projects they should spend time on if they want to achieve specific goals in the future. So it's sort of like an AI-assisted professional coach. Those are just a few of the things that we're pointing AI at.
And if we were to look at beyond that, as the founder of the company, chief strategy officer and interim CFO, you've got great visibility across the entire company. So how do you see the company shaping the future of on-demand financial talent? And is there anything you can share around your long-term goals and plans for the company?
Yeah, well, I think it all aligns with originally, why I started the company coming out of Deloitte and what our vision is, which is to empower business professionals to pursue meaningful work on their own terms. And look, we've only scratched the surface. It's an enormous market opportunity. We want to empower folks to feel safe, leaving the confines of traditional employment and working on their own terms. And we're not there yet, right? So we're unlocking those folks, but we're not doing so in droves yet. And so we've just scratched the surface of the market potential, specifically in finance and accounting. But if you think about the market holistically of six-figure plus type earners, finance accounting is a piece of what you call professional services, right? Yeah. And there are lots of tangential areas where what we've built is very applicable and useful, starting with office CFO, for example. And so we think this is a multi-trillion-dollar market opportunity. We don't want to put the cart before the horse. Obviously, we've just scratched the surface with finance accounting, but longer term, our vision is unlocking all business professionals, right, and empowering them to work on their own terms.
Well, a big thank you for coming on and sharing your insights and your story today. But before I let you go, I'm going to ask you to leave everyone listening with one final gift, and that is a book that means something to you. We can add to an Amazon wish list, or a song that we could add to our Spotify playlist. I don't care. I don't mind which it is, but what would you like to leave us with and why today?
A book. So there are a few that have had a profound impact on me. One that I'll share is a book that's inspired me tremendously called A Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And it's an incredibly moving, it's actually a pretty short read, I think about 100 pages. It's an autobiography of a philosopher who shares his personal experiences in the Holocaust and living through unimaginable circumstances, right? Living through concentration camp. And despite the challenges that he faced, Victor chose every day to show up with an optimistic, positive attitude for the folks around him. And, whenever I'm in a sort of like whiny, mood,
yeah,
this just puts everything in perspective, which is every day you have a choice about how you show up. And this guy, despite the most unimaginable circumstances, chose every day to show up with positive outlook. And, just it really helped me think about how I show up every day, how I wake up in the morning, sort of like the mindset that I have. And so this was one of the most profound and moving books I've ever read.
Wow, and I think that's a powerful moment to end our conversation on today. I'll get that book added to our Amazon wish list so people can find that nice and easily. And for anyone listening, wanting to find out more information about everything we talked about, the work that you're doing, contacting your team, all those things, what's the best starting point for everything?
Yeah, I'd say the best place is to visit our website. It's paro.ai, and great place to learn more. And there are opportunities through the website to contact us directly.
Well, I love chatting with you today around all things at the crossroads of AI and freelancing and where it's taking us and how freelance marketplaces will change and the future you see, how you see AI impacting that in the future and the great work that you're doing. I'd love to stay in touch with you, see how your journey progresses and evolves because things are moving so fast at the moment. But more than anything, just thank you for sitting down and sharing your story today and leaving us with that powerful message and book. Thank you, Michael.
Awesome, thanks.
So a big thank you to Michael for sharing his valuable insights on how AI is transforming the freelance marketplace and in doing so, providing exciting new opportunities for both freelancers and businesses alike. And I think through his leadership at Paro, he's continuing to push the boundaries and demonstrate that immense potential that AI holds in reshaping the future of work. But as always, I'd love to hear more on your thoughts on anything we talked about today. Email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, just @Neil C. Hughes. Keep your messages coming in. And for everyone listening, please stay curious, stay innovative, keep exploring these limited possibilities that technology is bringing. But more than anything, just a big thank you for listening today. Hopefully you'll join me again tomorrow. But until next time, don't be a stranger.